This was her third birthday. She loved it.
Little snippets of treasured time every parent cherishes.
Daddy-daughter little kissing stuff, that was one little ritual. It's just priceless.
Kenny Hale wanted to capture every moment with his daughter, Adrian.
Just the funny faces that she would make when she was a toddler.
But tangled within the memories of pure joy.
Her smile is something that can never be replaced. As I'm going through them, and I think I can make it, I can't look anymore, and I will just close it up.
Are memories darker than most could ever imagine.
Something's wrong. What's wrong? Okay, they're laying on the floor, something's wrong.
This is a nightmare, and I want to wake up.
The mother and her daughter is laying on the floor at the house, at my neighbor's house.
You think of the most horrific act that could happen is somebody coming into your home and killing you and your child inside of your own home in the middle of the night. You know, it's just that nightmare scenario.
As detectives stepped inside this home, they quickly realized this was a crime unlike anything the town of Bremerton had ever seen.
This is a special kind of evil.
Inside were the bodies of 27-year-old Nikki Anderson and her 4-year-old daughter, Adrian.
Just so many things that you just keep going over and over and over in your head as far as what happened and how it happened.
Just a day earlier, Kenny was at the apartment with his daughter, Adrian, and his ex, Nikki. The exes were dedicated to co-parenting. It wasn't uncommon for the three of them to spend time together, especially as Nikki and Adrian were preparing to soon move to San Diego to be with Nikki's new fiance.
I was saying my goodnights, and I was telling her that I'll see her the next day.
As Kenny went to leave that night, 4-year-old Adrian asked if she could go home with him.
I said, not tonight, babe. And I said, maybe next time. Gave her a hug, and as I was getting in my car and I looked out my passenger window and I seen her in the window, you know, waving, saying, you know, goodbye. And who would have thought that it would have been forever? What would have happened had I did let her come home with me that night?
The next day was a Thursday, January 30th, 1986. Several people came by the duplex looking for Nikki, some even multiple times that day, including a coworker, a friend of sorts, and a furniture salesman. But only one person actually tried to open the front door, changing the course of their life forever.
I turned around and walked away, and I thought I heard something.
Kenny had returned to the apartment to see his daughter as scheduled.
I listened, and I did hear like some whimpering, and I grabbed the doorknob, and it wasn't locked, and I pushed open, and I met with resistance when I pushed the door open, and as it turned out, it was Adrian's leg. As
his eyes adjusted to the dark, Kenny could see the body of his little girl Adrian and Nikki. The sound he'd heard was Nikki's 8-month-old son she had with her fiance who lived out of state. Investigators estimate the baby had been in his playpen just feet away from the bodies of his mother and sister for 20 hours. The crime scene showed a violent struggle between Nikki and the assailant. It appeared the killer pinned curtains together and strangely removed a cushion from the couch and put it inside the playpen along with Nikki's infant son. Nothing was stolen. Valuables were left in plain sight. Investigators believe the crime was sexually motivated with Nikki as the target. Both mother and child had been strangled to death.
She just had a smile that just broke your heart when she smiles.
For Kenny, the last image of his little girl is one he'd do anything to get out of his mind.
She suffered drastically. It was hard. I thought I was gonna get through this without doing this.
The discovery, the murders, changed everything.
I was bitter for a while. I cursed God. I was bitter at God. And I said she was innocent. How could you let something like this happen to an innocent child?
Kenny was quickly ruled out as a suspect. Years, then decades went by with no answers. Sometimes Kenny would get a phone call from a new detective saying the case was reopened. But he had little faith until recently.
I just had a different feeling with Marty.
For a long time, he felt like nobody cares about my little girl.
Enter in Detective Marty Garland.
I'm a kind of person that likes a puzzle, and this is, you know, kind of the ultimate puzzle, right? Trying to figure out what nobody has been able to figure out before you.
Now Detective Garland says the puzzle of this case is almost complete. He's just missing one significant piece.
I could say, in essence, we've figured out who our bad guy is. We just don't know what his name is.
Numerous items from Nikki's apartment have been processed by the lab, including bed sheets and the blue bathrobe Nikki wore that night. Detective Garland has what every cop wants: DNA believed to belong to the killer. But it's not that simple. The sample isn't complete enough to run in the DNA offender database or to use genetic genealogy. Instead, Detective Garland has to directly compare the DNA samples he collects to persons of interest.
That's all we need, is that name, so that we can get that person's DNA and do a one-to-one comparison.
He's looked into known serial killers and collected DNA from all the men close to Nikki. So far, no match. But Garland says he knows this much: the killer, whoever he is diabolical. On
average, for a healthy adult to be strangled to death usually takes in excess of 4 minutes. You think about doing something with that much force, that intimate with somebody, you've got 4 minutes to realize what you're doing and to stop doing it. But not only did he do that to Nikki, he then did this to this absolutely the purest of pure 4-year-old baby.
He says it doesn't appear Nikki was expecting company that night, but when the killer showed up at her door, it seems he was let in willingly.
It's this strange mix of, it's not somebody so close to her that it becomes an obvious suspect, but it is somebody close enough to her that she put a certain amount of trust in this person, and they betrayed it in the most heinous way.
Why? You know, why Adrian? Why my daughter?
There are no answers that can alleviate Kenny's pain, but having some sense of justice would perhaps make it easier to soak in the beautiful memories without the dark ones lingering.
I never stopped thinking about her. And not only her, but I think about her mom too. I look at Nikki and I just say she was a beautiful person that didn't deserve this to happen like that.